Hey, everybody. Happy Saturday. I know I do talk a lot of baseball, which I love. Many of you know I'm one of the radio and TV broadcasters for the Woo Sox. Make sure to follow my channel here. Follow me, you see on social at Radio Mike on X. But another big passion of mine is fantasy football and DFS. And I've had successful runs in DFS. I could, I'm not going to load up my account, but I do have thousands of dollars in it. Not like these pros. I got about four. So I've had some success doing that with regular season long in DFS. But I wanted to show you some of my tools that I use. Fantasy Labs is fantastic. But one thing that I've talked to a lot of people that they don't use is Vegas and implied scores, which is weird to me. I'm not picking on anybody here, you guys and gals. I'm just saying it's interesting feedback that I've gotten that people have not looked at the betting lines or implied total when they are building lineups or going over your fantasy teams. Why should you? Well, Vegas is pretty good. I have a subscription to Fantasy Labs, but this is free, I believe, and you can find this anywhere. You should always do this. And I have a process. Let's go through the implied totals first, and then I'll show you what I do. So I don't worry about, if you have season long, okay, you can worry about this. This is where it opens, as you see. This is the live. And yeah, you should use betting models. This is where the money is going in terms of the over-under. Okay? Right? So 88% of it is going under on the Jets Broncos game. So they don't even think it's going to be 26-18. But I don't really focus on that. If you're betting, maybe. But if you're thinking about running players out there, now this works for season long in DFS, but let's just stick to the main slate. You look at the teams in green. You want to focus on players from those teams, right? Now, are these end all? No. Will some of these be off? Yeah, but more than likely, if you start building an Excel sheet like I do, you're going to be amazed at how many of these teams' totals land near here. So it helps eliminate thinking for me. Like if you're playing DFS, you don't want a lot of Cleveland players. Now you could say, well, contrarian. Sure. And if you feel, and Vegas feels that, look, there's 91% of the money is going on the over on this. They think this game will go over 38.5. Now it could be 39, right? But yeah, that's true. And when I first started doing DFS and fantasy football, I started being like, yeah, I'm gonna throw Gabriel in there because no one owns him. That's okay, because you could hit on that, right? That could happen. But I typically now, if you're doing like your 50-50s and head-to-heads, you stick with the chalky players. But look at these scores. This is what you want to do, right? You want to play people off Green Bay. Now, I know last week Browning had, in a huge deficit, he had some garbage time touchdowns. Sure. Flacco's playing, and then if you're doing season long, look at these game totals. Like, those are high. I want to show you what I do. Bear with me here. I'm going to share my screen. Yep. Okay. So this is what I do every week as I prepare for DFS. This is just DFS. I can show you my fantasy team. I could do that after. fantasy team, I usually season long, you're playing your best players regardless of matchups, because you might not have bench players. But if it's a toss-up, for instance, like what would be if you had, Metcalf, you're not sitting, but like say you had a situation where you had two studs, Metcalf and maybe Mbuka. You're probably playing Mbuka over Metcalf anyways, but if you needed that decision to be, with more conviction, you can see the implied total. So this is what I do. I put together these. The bold is in as a favorite. I will put my home. I haven't been doing this because I kind of know the home favorites, and then the teams to target. Black is 23 points and up. This is kind of in the middle. 22 points. These are good tournament targets because could you see maybe New Orleans, against the Patriots? Maybe the Patriots score 27 and this is 24. Then all of a sudden, that's a pretty good shootout. And if you had Rattler in there with Olave and Johnson running it back against, say, a Diggs, and you got 51 points and a real cheap stack. So that's why I do this. And then I look for trends. Cash games, I'm going to play. This is the projected percentage owned. Cash games, I'm going to go with the chalk for my quarterbacks. But what I look for, and I did this in, I think, week 1 or 2, Goff was right here. I could probably show you we will get into a week 1. I will show you something I did in week 1. I think I can go all the way back. But it was a trend that I picked from, I'm going to load it up here in a minute. And I did really well in these tournaments from basically building a stack off of this. So again, for cash games, you want to be, of course, chalky. But this is what I use for tournaments. Look for trends. Stafford, 26 implied points. Do we not think that Stafford could get 26 to 28 points in Baltimore against a bad defense? And he's coming in at 3% owned. Now, some of you might not have the benefits of finding projection potential ownership, but you can copy this right here. This is the projected ownership for Sunday. I subscribe to Fantasy Labs. I'm not going to give away the other positions because I pay for it, and I do not like that sites are doing that, giving people free lineups and optimal lineups, because you should learn how to do it yourself, and it's not a fair advantage, but it's happening. And I'm giving you the quarterbacks, but a lot of this I've seen already online, so you can find this online. Donald, 1% projected ownership at Jacksonville in a game that's going to be back-to-back. Many are going to go for here. A Donald, Smith and Jimba, and another, piece. Run it back with whoever you want. So these are the tools I use. And you've got to have a process, but you've got to have a core of teams that you're looking to use. I'm not going to use all of these teams. I'm going to reduce it. But most of these will be in my, and I probably will dip down to using some of these guys too. And maybe, Harrison and 2 was a good, but the projected points of 20. But listen, you can make these decisions on your own. If you think that's a 27-point team, you're getting 2 or for under 1%. So it's not bad. I'm going to show you one of my FanDuel lineups. This is what I did earlier. Okay, so I made this team off my chart there. I started first with the quarterback. So Goff was coming in, I don't know why, against Chicago. He was coming in even lower than that. And I'm thinking their projected score was 30 against the Bears. And I mean, I was close to winning this tournament. And yeah, having the percentage, knowing it helps. But there's some chalky plays in this lineup. And I just missed winning this tournament. If you look at it, the St. Brown, I didn't use St. Brown as the stack. So I kind of got two, maybe that was not the right move, but I'll take it. So what I did was, and I saw this everywhere, that Goff, I read articles that Goff was going to come in low owned. And I'm thinking, why would he not be owned at home against the Bears? If Vegas thinks he's going to score over 30, and look what the final was. So I said, okay. And what I should have done was build a few lineups with Goff instead of Jameis, instead of Williams and Gibbs, done it with a Goff with St. Brown and Williams. You see this one went Goff, Brown, and Laporta with no Chicago run back. I like to run back players because if I feel it, and I knew this guy was going to be great here. So that was my process, was, all right, I want this game with a run back. I liked Arizona at home, and there's a correlation between a defense and a running back, and he scored. He could, I thought he'd have a better game. I can remember all my plot. Then there was just one-offs. Flowers was coming in as kind of a chalky play. Kincaid, low owned, high implied total. I wanted a game. I mean, look at all these. And then Barkley, which was low owned, didn't have a great game. That was a lot. But most of the players, look at, a lot of points. And that was my process. So leave your questions down below. And that's a little bit of my process, and I can help people. If you leave the comments, make sure to subscribe. I know no baseball stuff. People are disappointed, but we'll certainly have more. Follow my podcast at Red Sox Now, which is on YouTube. So thanks for watching. Happy Saturday.